Votes have been called. We're going to try to run up as close as we can to the time that we can make it to the floor to vote, and then we'll return back promptly whenever we do have to recess for the 3 votes that's been called. But Mr. Carey is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to serve on this committee again this session, and I also want to welcome our new members to the committee, on both sides of the aisle, so welcome. This body delivered landmark legislation in 2017 that provided, as we've heard from all of you witnesses, most of you witnesses, provided significant tax relief for Americans by putting money back into their pockets and for working families and boosting our economy. And we must make these effective tax cuts permanent. I think we've heard that from many of you today, and build upon the success of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to benefit working families and our businesses. This would ensure that Americans don't see an increase in their taxes, and on average, save Ohioans about 23%, a 23% tax hike. You know, last Congress, this committee and the House overwhelmingly passed the Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act, which included many of the policies to help working families. We need to continue to support these policies and help our working families grow. As a member of the Working Families Tax Team, I have heard firsthand from members of my community over the last 8 months about how TCJA policies have helped them and the importance of extending these tax cuts. Credit for Caring. This is a piece of legislation that I am proud to lead with my fellow Ways and Means member, Representative Linda Sanchez, and it's called the Credit for Caring Act, which will provide eligible working caregivers a tax credit to help offset the costs of care that they offer. It would allow them to continue to work while caring for a loved one through illness, disability, and aging in place. I'm looking forward to continuing that work on tax policies that will help these working families succeed. Mrs. Marple, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come out here. And I was touched by your story, number one. It sounds like you have a lot of things going on. There's no doubt about that. But I just, you were once a single mother, and now you're remarried, and you have two children, and very similar to my mother. And so I appreciate what you're doing. In my home state of Ohio, a family making a medium income in my district is about $75,000. And they would see a tax increase of about $1,540 if these taxes are set when they are set to expire. And 89,350 families in my district would see their child tax credit benefit cut in half. Let me just say that number again. 89,350 would see that child tax credit benefit cut in half. So let me ask you, Mrs. Marple, can you give me any idea how a tax increase like that would impact your family?
Yes, thank you for your question, Congressman, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about families today. I think that, as I talked about in my testimony, that we are raising kids in a culture of giving up. And as we do our taxes and we find out that the powerful communicator of the government, that we're doing a good job as parents, when we find out that that has been cut in half, that would be, for me, it would mean that I would have received either back less money or I would have owed money for my taxes, which would have added to the financial burden. But it also would kind of take the wind out of our sails in doing the work that we're doing to build the country and to fight against this culture of giving up. The tax credit remaining permanent and expanding would just encourage families like mine to not give up.
I want to thank you for that testimony. I was going to have some other questions, but I'm running short on time. But I just want to say I represent the largest city in the state of Ohio, which is Columbus. A recent study by the National Association of Manufacturers found that Ohio could lose upwards of 208,000 jobs and $18.9 billion in wages and over $37 billion in gross GDP if we don't extend TCJA. So I just want to point those numbers out again. 208,000 jobs, $18.9 billion in wages, and $37 billion in GDP. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.